All right. So I gotta say, leaving computer audio now, so I could check in with the other teams, and then I'll try and be back before this ends. Okay.
Mhm. Sounds good. Cool. Um, yeah, so I think if one of your
Sanat, are you able to raise your volume? I can barely hear you.
oh yeah, I'll do that. Sorry. Mm, mm, okay, I think this should be better, right?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I was just saying, it would probably be good if both teams or whoever wants to like, whichever team wants to like just share their process of how they went through to record the podcast, and like what kind of workflow or process they used and like how it worked out for just recording it. I think that would probably be good to start out with if any of you wanna.
The process leading up to the interview or the interview itself?
I think both would, yeah, both.
Okay, so leading up to the interview, I did um, a bit of Googling about the interviewee, read the chapter in the book that we were going to be like using as a structure for the interview. And I just kind of took what they, took some of their life into consideration when making questions about the chapter. So it was more geared towards Siri specifically. Um, and our group had a Word document where we put all our questions in to kind of collaborate. And that's kind of how we got our like list of questions that we wanted to get all set up. And then um, during like the interview itself, I can't really speak to because I wasn't the host, so I didn't really prepare for it other than like getting a Word document up to take notes. Well, I think it was Eric interviewed Siri.
Okay, cool. Um, yeah, and does anyone else in the group like want to also? I don't know who was in your group specifically, but yeah, if I think everyone in your group, if they want to like just share about what their process was, that would be interesting. Or also if Kyle, could you? So you shared your process up to it, but what would you say are like, wh- how do you think you could have like kind of improved it, or it could have been more effective, especially within like the team? um Apart from just your individual process, what were like the challenges of coordinating with the team and like um and having a synergy or having like effective communication between the team itself?
I would definitely say that there was a limited amount of communication, which
Mm,
in hindsight would be, you know, something I would want to avoid. It would be a whole lot better with um, more of like a communication flow, like a place that we could, you know, actively chat and stuff like that. So if we had any, issues or anything like that, we could talk there. So I think that was just an issue for us. It wasn't a super strong point. So I would say going back, I would try and work on that more.
Yeah, how do you think, like, do you think maybe just making like a group chat somewhere or something like that would have helped, or how else do you think um that would that could have been done?
Yeah, I definitely think a group chat would have been the way I would have gone, and I think it would be probably the easiest way, at least. So I would go with that option.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Um, yeah, so maybe that's like maybe the next step in terms of now that you have the episode and you need to work on editing it and the production part after. You could create a chat at least now and then. I think that could help with communication, but obviously, yeah, maybe in the next project, that would be like the probably the thing to start out with, I guess. But yeah, if the other group also, someone from the other group or multiple people want to share their process as well.
I'll jump in for our pod one team.
Mhm.
We also all, right from the get, I think we were very collaborative. So we all made sure that we read the chapter. We also created a shared Word document, like the other team, and we used it a lot. So each phase we went through, everyone was putting in their notes or just sharing ideas. Jackson had shared some information about how we would go about the editing, and I think we utilized that well. We also, to communicate, we emailed with each other for, just so we had open communication for preparing. And we also used this Zoom room. So we cleared time with Nicole that we could come in and use this room to have meetings outside of class, which was definitely helpful. So we could talk about it instead of just shooting emails or writing things in a document. As far as getting to the final process, we also built the Gantt chart, but I think even when we did our team discussion the other day, our team assessment, we didn't use it. I think the process of building the Gantt chart made us think about all the things we were going to have to accomplish, but we didn't really go back and use it. It was our collaboration using the Word document that really worked best for us. And then I would think Chandra could probably tell you more about her, or Chandra, about her experience actually doing the interview. She was our interviewer.
Awesome. Yeah, Chandra, do you want to talk about that? Like the process of doing the interview and how you kind of prepared for it as the host.
Or Morgan, are you there? Because I know you and Chandra worked together the night,
Yeah, I'm here.
finalizing things. Okay.
Well, the last night we kind of went over the questions and kind of talked about what's the best way to go forward. We had a conversation with Nicole to kind of like figure out if we're doing it right and asking questions on like, what is this like the right way we're going? So that definitely helped, but the last day we kind of cleaned it up and we made sure that the questions were interesting and all that.
Awesome. Okay. Great. It sounds like it worked out pretty well for you guys, like the process you used. Were there any things that you think you could have done better? Or in terms of even just making more efficient, because it seems like you did a kind of over communicate, which is obviously much better, I'd say, than not communicating, but maybe there was ways to, do you think there were ways to make it more efficient?
I think us like over communicating kind of helped us a lot more because I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
when we were talking originally, like we were in the same page, like we were all on the same page, but at the same time we were kind of like we were a little frazzled because we never done it before. So the fact that we kind of like talked through it and we kind of made sure we were all on the right path and
Right.
really helped us. But I feel like in the next one, since we know more about it, we can do it more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
So
Makes
that
sense.
really helped us.
Right. Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it, yeah, I mean, I think there's pretty much nothing wrong with over communicating, especially since it was like a new project. So it seems like your process worked pretty well for you guys. So um I think you could probably use the same one moving forward for production, editing and stuff. But maybe let's see. I know Nicole talked about this Descript. I'm not sure where um if you're still planning to use that for editing, or if I should kind of show how that works a little bit. I guess I could just in case if you guys want to try it out. And there's also this other, I've recently been experimenting with it. I don't know if obviously since in the bounds of this classroom you probably will be using like Microsoft stuff just because it's synced to Teams and stuff. So I don't know if you could use this, but I guess I can just show what I would recommend for workflow ideally. Okay, let's see. I think I can share my screen. So first, I'll just show how Descript works. So the cool thing about Descript, I think moving forward, you guys do have like one editor for who's kind of responsible for the editing, but obviously all of you could collaborate on um giving suggestions, looking over the transcript, looking over the interview, and just and I think that's important to for all of you to weigh in on like what parts should be there, right? But so for that, I think Descript is pretty effective. So the way it works, this is just one of the interviews one of my podcast interviews, but it kind of once you enter the audio here, you basically upload the audio. So I know the editor probably has been using Audacity or kind of familiar with that. So in the same way that you would export a file there, you could create a project, and then you would basically upload the audio file. Wherever, whichever it is. For example, and I guess you would want to upload both tracks because I think you recorded multiple tracks. Okay, for the purposes of this, yeah, so if you do that to upload the audio, and then you get it automatically transcribes the whole interview. There's gonna be probably quite a few, depending on how good the audio is, there'll be errors, but in general, it's pretty accurate. And then the text is basically kind of synced to the audio. So if you delete a word here, it deletes it from the audio. And this makes it much easier to edit edit recordings and more efficient, and also kind of easier to collaborate on it, because you can share this link with other people on your team. So for example, you would add people to your drive. It's kind of like Google Drive. You basically add them here, or you could just make it that anyone in the link can like comment. You copy it. Let me actually share it with, yeah, I'll just share it with all of you in the chat, the link, so you can open up yourself. So yeah, if you want to open this link and just see how it works, you can. Yeah, it would basically open up in your browser like this. And you can go through the transcript. Just close these. Comment. Like you could just say, okay, I mean, I think you'll have to create an account, but it's free. So, I mean, I think you guys could probably do that. So yeah, you create an account, and then anyone can comment on the link and just say like, this part doesn't seem relevant, and it would, then the editor could basically just look at that, and then or a multiple people could weigh in on whether you think this is relevant and like comment here. And then based on that, the editor maybe would be the decision maker, I guess, or maybe all of you would decide together. Yeah, I would still recommend like probably doing a call where maybe you could go through, all of you could go through, but this makes it easier after like a call where you guys discuss it together, which parts you want, just maybe more high level. But to figure out the details, I think this would be pretty useful. And then once there's like comments from everyone, I mean, it's pretty simple just to edit. Actually, you can just delete. If I delete, so here you can hear. Okay. I'll just go to the interview part.
That means if your product or a service actually helps you live,
So for example, you heard that. If I just delete this,
if your product or
it basically deletes it from the audio, and it automatically saves. Like you don't need to like save it somewhere. So it's just, it automatically saves your changes. You can also, if you don't want to mess with the transcript, like if you want the transcript to just show the whole thing, but you just want to delete the audio, you could ignore it, I think, which there's a different command, or you could go to edit, ignore, and then that way it won't show up in the audio, but you can still kind of see it in the transcript that this was there in case you need to refer back to it. And then when it transcribes it initially, it'll ask you to identify the speakers. So yeah, that will help also with the transcript, and just to know like the distinction between when you're speaking or when the host is speaking and the interviewer speaking. Oh yeah, another really cool feature is that you can automatically delete filler words on this. So you don't, I mean, obviously there might be some filler words it doesn't, but at least filler words like those would be deleted, and also I think some other ones, but yeah, basically all you need to do is highlight the one of the filler words, and then yeah, click remove filler words, and it will identify all of them. So yeah, it's just right now, and then you can ignore them. I would recommend ignoring. For this, you could just delete them, but if you, in some cases, it makes an error identifying filler words, or in some cases you might not want to delete a certain filler word because it's more like it disrupts the flow of the interview too much. Because if it's very quick, if you're just like and then you delete it through here, Descript is not like, it doesn't perfectly it just deletes it, but it doesn't perfectly make it so that the audio seems coherent and kind of isn't just too, there aren't like, it doesn't replace the thing with a space or something to space out the sentence. So yeah, in some cases you might not want to delete it, so just I would recommend ignoring it instead of deleting it. That way you can always just unignore, and then it will replace, it'll add that back. So yeah, you just click ignore again, and then it replaces, it like puts it back, as you can see. But I would recommend, and don't just go through the transcript, but also listen to the audio, because obviously the transcript won't capture everything. It won't capture just like the flow of it. If there's certain moments where obviously pauses and stuff, this doesn't capture like the amount of pauses or gaps between things. So like here, you wouldn't be able to just see that there's a big gap here between from the transcript. So you might want to go back here and then delete it. You could just select the part that needs to be deleted and then press delete, and it would delete it automatically. So yeah, it's pretty intuitive in general, but yeah, just make sure you listen to the actual interview as well, and just make and then you edit stuff based on the audio file, and then yeah, you can use the filler words thing. You can also, one thing I discovered, even though it only filters for and like if you want to filter for other words, other filler words, it requires like a premium subscription or something. You can kind of hack that by you do just Control F or whatever feature to find words. Like you could just go to find, I guess, here. If yeah, I'm not sure, depending on the interface the shortcut might be different, but you could search up a word like I mean, different interviewers would have different filler words they use. Maybe some people use too much or like too much. You already might know that, like, I mean, the person who did the interview would already know probably what their specific guests like choices are, common choices are for wording. So yeah, you just can search up like, and then some cases, obviously like is not always a filler word. In some cases it would be used correctly, I guess. So you don't want to just automatically delete the
Just like I had no background.
you don't want to just automatically delete all of them, but you could just put, or let's go with for example. I actually already did this, so yeah, like you can see, is ignored everywhere, but
Into it. I hate
so you just want to ignore it for now.
into it. I hate talking about
And then go back and just listen. Even sometimes is used correctly, so you wouldn't want to delete it everywhere. So you might, but most cases it will be a filler word. So it's faster to just delete all of those instances and then go back, and once you listen, you might want to actually don't delete them. I mean, ignore all of the instances, and then once you go through the transcript again while listening to the audio, you could add it back by just clicking ignore, and then it adds it back in certain places where you might still want it. So yeah, you can do that for things like like and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so this would be like a much faster process, and also it helps with collaboration. So I'd highly recommend using this. I think Nicole will introduce it to you. The main thing is that it's like, if you want to get above a certain amount of hours, you might need to pay. But yeah, I think Nicole can figure that out. If I think she was talking about maybe getting a student like discount from Descript. So yeah, but that's the tool. That's a pretty useful tool. Yeah, I think that is the main thing I can think of right now. Was that like I'm just curious, did that, or like, are there any questions about that tool, or did that seem like something you might want to use, Descript?
I think
I'm
so,
so,
yes.
sorry, go ahead.
It would be a little different on my end because I don't have a MacBook, but I understood the steps. And in my opinion, it looked like it would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it depends. But I don't think it should be a big difference. And also, only, I don't know, are you the editor, Darrell, for your group?
No, I'm not the editor. I just take
Okay.
notes. I'm like the Sherlock Holmes of the group.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, I think the editor would be the main person actually doing the edits. So they would need to download probably the app on their computer, either on Mac or Windows. But if you don't, if you're not the editor, you could just open the link on your browser, and then just comment on certain places. So it would be, you wouldn't even need to download it. So yeah, I think. Were you all able to open like the link and kind of, I know you probably don't have an account already, so, but were you able to like open it and just view it? The link I put in the chat?
I was able to open it, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so yeah, I think that's the main thing but do you guys have
It's
any
still
questions?
loading for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me know if it works once it's done loading. But do you guys have any other questions about just the workflow, about editing? Yeah, anything else?
If I can ask real quick, Nicole had mentioned before we spoke with you and in an email she sent out to our pod team, we have 2 authors for our next
Okay.
interview. And so she thought you might have some tips on how to do that. Should it be like a roundtable discussion, or if it's still one interviewer, how should it be formatted when you're dealing with more than one author or interviewee?
Okay. Interesting. 2 authors for, these are 2 or 2,
We
right?
have two authors for our next chapter, so it'd be both
Oh,
of them
okay.
on the same podcast.
Oh, you're doing both in the same one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, I think
Have you done that specifically before, or what format have you done when you've had more than one person to interview?
I have done that before, but not in the same kind of context, obviously. But I think, I mean, in this case, it would sort of depend on like just what, obviously it depends, but I guess I can just tell you like what I think you put potential stuff you could do, like if you're doing like the most straightforward is probably just, I think you could still interview both of them kind of at the same time. What you just need to like specify maybe certain questions for one person and certain questions for the other one, so they probably sort of alternate between, I mean, you don't have to make it that rigid, obviously, like they don't have to alternate, but something where, you know, they're speaking, um yeah, that's the general way it should, I guess it would work, where one person answers one question, the other one takes the other one. And I think it's, especially for this, it's like you might need to have more like communication beforehand, either through like email or something, with the authors, I mean, either through email, just explaining what you're doing, and letting them know that, okay, we're I think like actually I think you asked about sending questions beforehand. So in this case, it would make more sense to send questions and some sort of outline where you also specify which questions are for who, or which questions, or ask them to maybe say which ones they feel most comfortable answering, and they could highlight like the ones that they're probably best positioned to answer. And then during the interview, yeah, you can either specify who you're asking a certain question to, or just they would know because they've looked at the outline and they could automatically answer based on which question they said they want to. um so yeah, I think you could basically do that, where the host, still there's still one host, and then she kind of just interviews both of them, making it more about the chapter. I mean, either case, it would be pretty much more about the chapter and the content instead of their like personal story and stuff. But in this case, probably even more so because you have two people. So um yeah.
Yeah, if I could chime in, since I jumped in here at a good time, I think. The one thing I can say is these two authors, I think, have different backgrounds. So the one woman, Joy Leopold, has more of like a journalism and like activism, it seems. And then I think he is more like human resource, if I remember correctly, or something. So it's like, the topic could be that you're more like, I want to hear, like if you can sense a difference by looking over their bios and the kinds of papers they've been writing, because that's usually on their on their page from their website. You might want to say, like, I actually want to hear Joy's perspective on this, or Dr. Leopold's perspective on this, or I want to hear Dr. Lambert's perspective. Like you could direct it that way based on like, who would you want to hear about, and sometimes you might want to hear both, like that could be a way too. I think to where I had gotten asked to be interviewed, and I brought Sana and another collaborator, Hannah, in on it, and we had met before. So I do think they're probably, if you did give them a questions, or if they just know they're being interviewed, they're going to probably also say like which ones they are more. So it's almost like maybe that might be a pre-interview question, even to just say, as we get prepared for this, are there certain topics within this chapter that, I don't know, how would you phrase that, Sana? You see what I'm getting at, where it might be like, just asking them to kind of lay out like, why did they come together on this? I'm guessing that one of them got asked, or and they brought the other in typically. Like that's what happened with me bringing in Sana and Hannah.
Wait,
So that might, that might be something to ask in a pre-interview, just like an email, right? Maybe just so that gives more clarity.
yeah, I think that's what I mentioned as well. Yeah, basically asking them to, I said either like you can have some pre-written questions as well, and then just send them both and ask them which ones they think they would, uh, like which ones they would be most comfortable answering, or like, or kind of their expertise, I guess. And then yeah, kind of divide them according to whichever yeah, whatever they answered. Obviously there might be overlap, but then you could just choose one person for that.
Yeah.
Or in certain cases both of them also will want to weigh in on a certain thing, so you don't have to just have one person respond to one question, right? So yeah, and or you could just ask them more broadly about like which topics they are they they could cover better.
Yeah. I think they'll probably have worked that between them. If they've collaborated together before, they probably will want to have some sense of who's going to handle what. I don't even know if it's on us as much, but
Mm-hmm.
you could email if you have questions. And I know you guys did some, Chandra had taken care of some of that the last time. So how did this go, by the way, up until that point? Because I said this was the extra conversation. I said that if there was time to talk about. So I'm guessing you talked through process and all that before then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
showed, I think
Descript.
yeah, I showed Descript too. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used it for that self-assessment that I recording I did, and I didn't worry about making sure it didn't sound at all choppy. That's the problem where on Thursday night, and I can let you guys all know, because you're always invited to go to either thing, day shift or night shift if you're curious. But on Thursday night, the night shift has a roundtable team, and that I said to them when they chose it that it is harder because all the content's on you, and they no one on that team has any prior audio editing experience. So I have a colleague from the podcasting workshop's going to come in and do a Descript kind of overview for them, kind of like screen shares and everything on how to, although they actually got pretty far already, they did do it themselves. So it is pretty intuitive. They did get, but I think they're going to probably do all their editing, or a lot more of their editing in there maybe. So I don't know. But she's going to come talk about just like process again, also with them, because they don't have a fellow team to discuss it with. So yeah, if anybody wanted to come, they could just let me know. I haven't scheduled the exact time with her yet because their class is like 3 hours long. So I have to figure out the start time on that. So I'm going to hit stop.